guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Maggie and I used to upload videos on lifestyle, beauty, and fashion, but I haven't uploaded a video in a year. So I'm back and I'm actually going to be doing something a little bit different than what I've done in the past. I hope you guys just bear with me, and if you're new, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. So for today's video, I'm actually going to be doing a summary for a book series that I've been reading. The first book in the series is called A Shadow in the Ember by Jennifer Armentrout, and she actually just released the fourth book in the series. So I actually want to start this new series on my channel where I do short summary videos for different books that I've read, especially if they have like multiple books in the series or a new book coming out, like the Flesh and Fire series that just had a new book come out this month. I know this will be helpful for any of you that might have read the book years ago and you forgot, a lot of the main events and you want to read the new book that just came out, so this will freshen up your memory. I would like to keep this video short and sweet, so let's just jump into the summary. Okay, so the main character's name is Serafina Miro. She is 17 years old at the beginning of the book, and she is basically supposed to be married off to the primal of death. Now in this book, there's a lot of talk about different gods and goddesses, and the primals are basically the primal power, like they're the ultimate power. They have gods that they rule over. Now her ancestor from like 200 years ago was in a desperate situation. He made a deal with the primal of death in exchange for fertile soil, basically for his land that was dying off. The firstborn daughter in his bloodline would be married off to the primal of death. This is what the primal of death asked for. I don't know why it took like 200 years for the first daughter to be born, but once she's finally born, she's basically brought up with the idea that she's supposed to marry primal of death. Now, one thing that happens during this time is that her family discovers that this deal actually has an expiration date, which started on the day she was born. Basically, the day she was born, everything started rotting away again. They also figure out that in order to make the deal revert and go back to nice and fertile lands, they actually have to kill the primal of death. And to kill the primal of death, he has to become weak by falling in love, then he can be killed with a shadow stone weapon. From the moment Sarah is born, she's basically groomed and trained to seduce the primal of death and to fight and kill him. She's trained in all fighting styles and she can pretty much use any weapon from daggers to swords to arrows. The day comes, she's supposed to be in the altar, and finally when he arrives, he basically comes up to her and tells her,
"I have no need for a consort."
And a consort is basically a wife. So when he finally comes for her, he basically tells her, "Nah, I'm good." So everyone is super confused as to why he rejected her, but her mom really takes it out on her. She gets mad, she's basically slaps her in the face and tells her, "You failed this kingdom." And it's really extreme because, like I said, she wasn't brought up in the most traditional way, and not only was she not brought up in like a loving, caring family, but her kingdom doesn't even know of her existence. So her dad, King Miro, basically died when she was born and didn't have any other children, and her mom remarried. Her stepdad already had a son and a daughter, so she also has a stepbrother and a stepsister. So basically the next person in line to become king or queen is her older stepbrother, because no one knows of her existence. So when he rejects her, pretty much everyone blames her, gets mad at her, and for the next 3 years of her life, they still try to like go to the altar to see if he'll come for her and like summon him, but he never shows. After she turns 20 years old, everybody pretty much ignores her in the kingdom, and she just goes about her days doing her own thing. Her mom only hits her up to kill people. She's like her mom's personal hitman. So she spends most of her time still training, because the person who trains her, his name is Sir Holland, and he's basically a knight. He's been training her since she was little, and he still has faith that her destiny is supposed to be fulfilled and she should be expecting the primal of death to come get her one day. She also spends a lot of her time like just trying to give back to the poor. She steals food from the kingdom, like food that they're about to toss out anyways, and she takes it to families that their soil have basically completely rotten. Her stepsister is pretty similar in the sense that she helps out with like orphan kids or kids that are just in a bad situation, and her stepbrother is just like this deadbeat guy who honestly is a piece of shit. He doesn't care about anybody but himself, and he just spends most of his time bullying Sierra and basically telling her how she's a nobody and she failed the kingdom. Her stepdad kind of acts like whatever, like he doesn't really care. He's not mean to her, but he's not exactly loving towards her either, and her mother is definitely not loving towards her. Like her mother, like I said, her whole life has pretty much just like brought her up to believe that this is her duty and that's her only role in life, and after she gets rejected by the primal, she's just wants nothing to do with her. So basically one day she's like off doing her own thing, and she actually runs into these gods that are in the middle of killing a mortal family. So she witnesses a goddess and she kills this man, like completely incinerates him, and then she witnesses a god kill a baby. Now when she sees this, she gets pissed. She's like, oh no, I'm intervening, because you know she knows how to fight. And right as she's about to intervene, somebody stops her, and this somebody turns out to be Ash, who's also Nikto's the primal of death. Now she doesn't know who he is. She just realizes that he's a god, because apparently it's easy to tell like who the gods are, because they have like this ether, they call it, in their eyes. So she sees his eyes, she realized that he's a god, but she did not realize that he's a primal, and he's the primal that was supposed to marry her, because when he came to reject her, she didn't see his face. He was covered like with a hood or something. She knows that he's really tall, but she doesn't know what the primal looks like. He introduces himself to her as Ash, and when he stops her from intervening, he's basically telling her like, oh, you know, I saved your life, what are you doing? These gods are in the middle of literally killing humans. And she's like, oh no, didn't you see? They killed the baby. We have to do something about it. And he's like, yeah, I'm following them, I'm watching them, don't worry about it, like go about your day. And they have like this back and forth banter thing going on, and when he realizes they're about to be discovered by the gods, he like takes her into an alleyway and basically tells her to act like a couple so that they don't suspect that, you know, they're being followed. Ash asks her to kiss him, and she kisses him, and they have like this long passionate kiss. Obviously there's chemistry. At the same time that she's impressed by him, she's like fighting him back the whole time. Oh, I wanted to intervene, you didn't let me. He's like, oh, I saved your life.
You're welcome.
So they each go their separate ways. She basically just goes on about her life, still thinking about him, but doing everyday things. They also talk about this person named Odetta that's supposed to be like her nursemaid. She basically helped raise her. It's like the closest thing she has to a mother figure, and she's very old. She's practically dying. They hint towards Sierra having this gift, but they don't really say what it is right off the bat. It's kind of obvious that her gift has to do with like healing or bringing people back from the dead, because she has this interaction with Odetta where she thinks that she's dead. As soon as she's about to do something, Odetta's like, oh hell no, like I'm alive, girl, do not bring me back. Once I'm gone, I'm gone. So she basically makes it very clear that she does not want to come back. Then the next time that she interacts with Ash is basically they run into each other for the third time, when she starts investigating this apartment complex where she sees one of the gods that killed the family, the baby, walk out of. So she walks in and she's like investigating to see what he was up to. She finds a dead body, which turns out to be her mom's seamstress. And when she's like in the middle of finding the dead body, Ash sneaks up on her and she basically stabs him in the chest. At first she thinks that she killed him because he's a god, and if you stab a god with a shadow stone dagger in the heart, they die. But he was still alive obviously, and she just assumes that she missed the heart. He gets mad and he actually destroys her dagger. She gets mad because he destroyed her dagger, and he's mad because she stabbed him, but he's like not really mad. He's just like,
You stabbed me.
and she's like,
you snuck up on me and I just saw a dead body, so what'd you expect?
basically the body comes back to life. It tries to attack them. Ash takes care of it, and then Ash warns her again, please stay away, don't worry about the situation, I'm taking care of it. And she's like,
But why are they doing that? And why do you care? Like, you're a god. And he's like,
But I don't go around killing people, so, you know, I'm gonna take care of it.
then Sierra runs into a situation with her stepsister Ezra, and Ezra basically looks for her to help her to bring back Marisol, which is her best friend, back to life, because they were in one of their missions and Marisol got herself killed. So obviously her sister knows that she can bring people back to life, and she asked her to do her that favor. At first Sierra's like, nah, you know, I only bring back animals, I don't bring back humans because I don't want to interfere with that. But Ezra begs her and she's like, please, I love her. And when Sierra realizes that her sister is basically in love with Marisol, she's like, okay, I'll do it for you. So she brings back Marisol, and then literally the next day her stepfather dies. Her stepbrother Tavius sneaks up on her in her bedroom, like catches her by surprise when she was sleeping, and basically tells her that she needs to bow down to him because he's the king now. Mind you, his dad just died.
and she's like, no, you're not my king. I'm not bowing down to you.
So he gets mad and he takes her away with the guards, and he basically starts whipping her. And in the middle of him whipping her, her mom and her stepsister actually walk in and they're like, Tavius, what are you doing? And he's like,
I'm the king now, so you guys gotta do what I say.
right there and then is when Mr. Ash comes in to the rescue. This is where she realizes that the primal of death is actually also Ash, the god that she's been having interactions with. So he basically kills off the guards that were helping Tavius whip her. He leaves Tavius for last, but she's like, no.
Leave Tavius to me. I'm gonna take care of him.
And then her mom is like literally begging for Tavius's life, and Ash is like,
Shut up.
So Nyktos lets Sierra take care of Tavius, and she basically cuts off his arm, stabs him. The whip that he was using to whip her, she shoves it down his throat. So it's like very intense scene. Her mom is just like Ash is like, okay. So yeah, once she finishes Tavius off, Ash sends Ezra and her mom away. Essentially, he tells her in order to save her life, he's gonna have to actually take her as his consort, because not only did he claim her like in front of everybody, because when he came for her, he was like telling Tavius,
how dare you touch what's mine?
You know, he said that in front of everybody. So he basically claimed her in that moment, and he's like, I'm gonna have to take you with me because my enemies are gonna become your enemies. And you basically just killed the king. Like, you committed murder. They go to the Shadowlands, which is where he's from. The Shadowlands is part of Elysium. Elysium is basically like where the gods and the primals live, and is divided up into different courts. Once she arrives, she's introduced to Eos. Eos is like a goddess that lives in the Shadowlands, and she helps Sierra settle down, gets her clothes and food and all this. So while she's there, she meets other goddesses and gods and even dragons. Dragons are basically dragons that can have a human form, and they're like the guards for Ash. So half of the book is her basically like in the Shadowlands trying to figure out like, oh, now that I'm with the Primal of Death, I have to fulfill my duty and I have to kill him. So she's like in that mindset, and he's just like trying to protect her. Basically every time she uses her gift, there's like a whole ripple of power that's felt within the gods and the primals. So she uses it to bring back a mortal, and she uses it also to bring back Belle, which is one of the goddesses that she meets. She's like a warrior goddess. She's a badass. But yeah, so she dies basically protecting Sierra, and Sierra brings her back to life and essentially ascends her, which means that she can also become a primal, and that's like, you know, that's a challenge for other primals. So the Shadowlands is attacked like a few times while Sierra is there, and they're like fighting back and trying to protect not only the land but Sierra. Eventually Ash learns of her power when she brings back the mortal, and he's like, what, you can bring people back to life? Why didn't you tell me that? She's like, well, you know, you're the Primal of Death, why would I tell you that? Like, I'm literally taking your souls away from you. He's like, no, it doesn't work that way. And they basically end up explaining to her that the reason why her realm is rotting away, because they call it the rot, is not because of the deal that, by the way, he didn't make. It was his dad that made it. Yeah, but his dad was the Primal of Death before him, and his dad was the one that made the deal. The reason why the rot is happening is because his dad, twin brother, Colis, who's also the Primal of Life right now, he was the original Primal of Death. He stole his brother's power and became the Primal of Life. When Colis killed his brother, which is basically Ash's dad, Ash became the new Primal of Death. And so basically it was not Ash who asked for a consort, it was his dad. And they're basically trying to figure out like, why would he do that? Like, he was in love with Ash's mom. Even though she died while she was pregnant with Ash, he was still in love with her very much. So why did he do this? Once Sierra figures this out, she's like, oh shit, like there's no point in killing Ash. This is not gonna save my kingdom. So she basically confesses to Ash and some of the gods and goddesses around that she was actually sent there to kill him, and that was her mission. She was supposed to make him fall in love and kill him, because they thought that by killing him, that would make the rot go away and their lands would be fertile again and their people would stop dying. The gods that serve him, they don't like hearing this. They get mad at her, they don't trust her anymore, and they start treating her differently. Ash also gets mad, but he doesn't even get mad because she was supposed to kill him. He gets mad because according to him, she gives no value to her life. He tells her like,
do you know that if you would have tried to kill me, not only could I have killed you, but if you would have succeeded, then my guards could have killed you, my dragons could have killed you.
And she's like, yeah, I know, I'm basically the sacrificial lamb of my family.
So he gets mad at her for not valuing her life, and it's like a whole saga, like half the book. He's mad at her for that. They still have their spicy moments, because obviously their attraction for each other is undeniable. So after the last big attack on them, they realize that Colis is after basically Sierra. He knows that somebody's bringing people back to life, and he wants whatever that is, because they basically explain the reason why he stole his brother's powers was because he fell in love with this mortal a long time ago. Her name was Satoria, and when she saw him, she actually got scared because he was the original Primal of Death, and she ran off a cliff and died. So he wanted his brother, Ethos, which is Ash's dad, to bring her back to life, and his brother didn't want to do it because he was like, she's already passed on, she's basically in heaven now, and she's at peace, like we cannot disturb her peace. Colis doesn't like this. He's like, I don't care, I want her, I love her.
Bring her back.
Since his brother denies him, he basically figures out a way to steal his powers, and they switch roles. But even though, you know, Colis is the Primal of Life, he's not the true Primal of Life. So he's able to bring Satoria back to life, but that's pretty much it. Like, he could only bring her back once, and when she realizes what's going on, she like basically kills herself because she does not want to be with him. He gets super obsessed with her and wants to bring her back again. Like I said, he is not the true Primal of Life, so he can't really bring her back. And then Ethos got together with another goddess, and he did something to Toria's soul, so that basically instead of her dying and moving on to the veil, she would reincarnate into another person. So as long as her soul is, you know, active, it's reincarnating every time she dies. This way she doesn't move on to the veil, and Colas never has the possibility of bringing her back to life. So she's basically in the mortal realm, being reborn every so often, and he doesn't know who she is or where she's at. So he's like eternally looking for her and eternally mad at Ethos for doing that. And that's the reason why he kills his brother and his brother's wife. So basically towards the end of the book, they realize they have to talk to the Fates or the Aerie, and they summon the Aerie. And when they meet, it turns out that it's actually Sir Holland, and the knight who trained her. He's a Fate, basically an immortal being, and she had no idea. She thought he was mortal the whole time. And it turns out that Syrah's actually been having the symptoms of a culling all this time, which is basically what a god goes through when they're getting their power or becoming a primal. And she's mortal, so she's not supposed to be going through the culling, but Holland basically explains to them that because she has the embers of life in her, and she also tasted Ash's blood, by the way, she's going through a full culling, which means that her mortal self is turning into the primal of life. And they're like, oh no, wait, that cannot happen because she could die. And Holland basically tells them that in order for Syrah not to die, the primal who the ember belongs to, she has to feed off of him, and he has to be in love with her. So this becomes like a whole big issue, because basically Ash got rid of a part of his heart, which is the part that lets him fall in love. I forgot what it's called. It's called like the Sarcadia or something like that. So we know he got rid of it, and he doesn't want to be weakened by falling in love, which is the reason why he got rid of it. That's a problem, because if he can't fall in love with Syrah, then Syrah's not gonna survive the calling. The book pretty much ends up with a cliffhanger of like them in the middle of talking to the Aerie, and also Penelope, which is like a goddess of divination. She actually has visions and prophecies. Wow. So Holland is telling them that this is what needs to happen in order for Syrah to survive, and Penelope is telling them, but also watch out, because there's a big bad coming, and according to this prophecy that I saw, you guys gotta prepare for the worst. Ash is like pissed because he knows he can't fall in love with Syrah, and he doesn't want her to die, because obviously even though he's mad at her, he still like cares for her, and they still have, you know, this thing going back and forth. And Syrah feels bad for Ash because she's like, oh, this shouldn't fall on him, it's not his fault, you can't force him to fall in love with me, like obviously he's never gonna fall for me, so I'm gonna die. And she's like coming to terms with it, but he's like not coming to terms with it. But it's like a big revelation that she's basically the true primal of life, because she has true embers of life inside of her. Not only does she have his father's embers of life inside of her, but she also has Ash's embers of life inside of her, because his father took them away from him and put it in her bloodline. But she has to survive the culling. That's pretty much how the book ends. I am going to be doing a summary of the second book, so if you want to avoid having to reread the second book, or you just want to know what happens, make sure that you subscribe to my channel and you stay on the lookout for my next upload, because I will be doing a summary of Alighting the Flame, which is the second book to the Flesh and Fire series. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.
Just wanna love you, just wanna